Hello there, folks. For those of you watching this channel for the first time, my name's Glenn Wilkinson. This channel is called Glenn Art Stuffs. Today I'm going to be talking a little bit about oil painting. I'm a newbie oil painter, so I don't have a great deal of experience with it. But I've been kind of messing around with it for a few months now. Pardon me. And yeah, I've started to kind of, get some idea of, some. I've started to get to grips with it on a basic level. And first of all, I would just say, to be honest, like, if you're interested in getting into oil painting, just start oil painting. Do you know what I mean? Because I think, to be honest, everyone kind of does it a little bit differently. So you're not gonna be able to adopt things exactly how I've adopted them. But everyone does things differently. But there is some basic rules, and the basic rules is basically rules to do with the fat over lean rule, which you've probably heard about before if you've watched any videos or done any kind of research about oil painting. Basically, the fat over lean rule is it's to do with drying time. Basically, if you put something which takes longer to dry underneath something which takes less time to dry, then the dry layer over the top of the less dry layer will start to crack as the less dry layer dries more. Does that make sense, or does it not? Yeah. So basically, if you put turpentine into your oil paint, it increases the drying time. So turpentine dries very quickly. If you put linseed oil in your oil paint, linseed oil decreases the drying time. So oil paint with lots of linseed oil mixed into it will take longer to dry. And the thing about oil paint is it's still technically drying even when it feels dry to the touch. So your paint might feel dry to the touch, but it's still pardon me, sorry, I've got a very bad throat. Your paint might feel dry to the touch, but it's still technically drying for about 6 months. Or technically, oil paint never really dries, because drying refers to the process of water evaporating out of something, and oil paint has the exact same amount of water content when it's wet as it does when it's fully cured. So technically, it's not actually drying; it's just hardening. So when it feels dry to the touch, it might still be hardening. So basically, the fat over lean rule is just in reference to like, if you're gonna kind of wait for the layers of oil paint to dry in between painting sessions, then like basically don't put a layer of kind of paint that's kind of heavily diluted with turpentine over the top of a layer that's heavily diluted with linseed oil. That's the basic rule. And then it can get a little bit confusing when it comes to linseed oil versus paint just straight out of the tube, though, because that was something that I wasn't really sure about for a long time. It was whether paint straight from the tube is considered fatter than paint with a lot of linseed oil in it. But if you think of it in terms of drying time, so instead of saying fat over lean, you just say slow drying time near the top layers, quick drying time near the bottom layers. So therefore, I think, and make sure you double check this, don't hold me accountable if I'm wrong here, but I think that means that linseed oil would go, like a layer with lots of linseed oil in it would go over the top of a layer with paint straight from the tube. I think that's what it would mean. That would make sense to me anyway. And obviously, a turpentine layer would go like right at the bottom, or a white spirit or paint thinner or whatever the hell you're mixing in with your paint. Anyway, okay, so that's all the kind of technical stuff. Now I'm going to talk about my own kind of discoveries through painting with oil paint a little bit. And I should tell you that my background when it comes to creating imagery is more in oil pastels. I like drawing in oil pastels a lot. But I've also kind of drawn in like alcohol markers and stuff, messed around with that kind of thing. So basically, the closer something is to an oil pastel, the more comfortable I feel with it. And oil paint tends to take on different characteristics depending on what you mix with it. So if you mix a lot of turpentine or white spirit or odorless paint thinner or whatever the hell you're using as the paint thinner, if you mix a lot of that into it, then it takes on a quality that's more, should we say, closer to watercolor. I mean, it's not going to be like watercolor, obviously, but it's more on the kind of watercolory side of the spectrum of art mediums, if that makes any sense whatsoever. Yeah, if it's got turpentine, lots of turpentine in it, it'll be closer to the characteristics of watercolor. If it's got a lot of linseed oil in it, then it'll kind of like hold a lot of your brush strokes. That was the thing that I found about mixing loads of linseed oil into the paint, is that it was hard to kind of blend out my brush strokes with the linseed oil, although that was my initial experience, but I'll be honest, I haven't really used a great deal of linseed oil, to be honest. Like, most of my oil painting experience has been basically using either a lot of kind of turpentine or white spirit. I don't really know the difference between turpentine and white spirit, to be honest. Using a lot of turpentine or white spirit, or using paint straight from the tube. Every time I've kind of tried to do stuff with linseed oil, it's been a little bit, I don't know. I feel like I've got a little bit less control over it when it's got linseed oil in it. But I think that's because I'm used to using oil pastel. So oil pastel is a very thick, kind of oily, lump of kind of pasty color that you're kind of putting onto the painting. And for that reason, I think the kind of I think oil paint takes on a characteristic which is most like oil pastel if it's just used straight from the tube. That's my that's what I think anyway. So that's the reason why I've gotten to like painting with oil paint straight from the tube. And this painting that you can see me painting here, the paint that I'm applying onto the canvas has like basically it has absolutely no turpentine or thinner or anything like that in it. And it has absolutely no linseed oil or any other kind of medium mixed into it. Basically, what you're seeing me do here in this painting is just getting paint straight from the tube, mixing it to whatever colour I want it to be, and then just slapping it on the canvas straight away. And I've from the kind of experiments that I've done with oil paint, so far, I would say that that's probably the way that I most enjoy working with oil paint, is to just use it straight from the tube. It's just kind of, I don't know, and the reason why is because I think when you kind of squeeze it out straight from the tube, I think it kind of really, really optimizes it for being able to blend with it. So when you draw with oil pastel, obviously you can't mix oil pastel off the surface that you're drawing on. You can't mix oil pastel up in a palette or anything. Unless you I know you can dilute oil pastel with turpentine or white spirit, actually, to be honest, but I never do any of that kind of stuff with oil pastel. I just draw straight with the pastels. And then, so anyway, basically, when you're using oil pastel, all of the colors that you mix have to just be kind of blended on the paper that you're drawing on. So I really, really like just blending on the surface, which is what made us want to kind of try oil paints over any other type of paint, because I wanted to kind of blend things together on the surface. And through my kind of basic paintings that I've done with oil paint so far, I've realised that squeezing it straight from the tube seems to be the best for blending, on the surface. But there is some differences, obviously. So if you are somebody who likes blending colours together, smooshing them together on the canvas, there is some little tactics that I've kind of learned to sort of help me do that better. Although it must be said that the best way to kind of learn with oil paints is to just kind of get into it, get a feel for it yourself. Your fingers and your wrists are kind of much more intelligent than the intellectual part of your brain. So, when you're painting with oil paints, when you're painting with oil paints or oil pastels or any medium, actually, for that matter. But when you're painting with oil paints, you'll find that just getting into it and having a go is the best way to kind of develop little kind of almost like reflexes for how to use them. And anyway, I'll share with you a kind of basic description of some of mine. So basically, I don't know if you can see properly, but on the side of my drawing board there, I've got like a little piece of kitchen roll, and basically, I'm putting some basic colours down, and then I'm kind of putting lighter colours over the top to kind of blend with the colours underneath for the parts where I want the light parts to be. But then in between, like what you don't want to do in terms of blending with oil paints is obviously when you dip your brush in and you're kind of blending backwards and forwards, obviously you can kind of pick up paint on your brush from the surface and you can kind of move it around. And obviously when you're blending, you don't really want to do that. You don't really want to like pick up like a lump of white and plonk it somewhere where you want a dark spot to be, obviously. So there's kind of like a process of kind of blend it a little bit with your brush, do a few little strokes, then take it over to the kitchen roll and just give your brush a wipe, and then blend it a little bit more, then take it over and give it a wipe, and then and that's kind of the process of like constantly kind of wiping the excess paint off your brush, not rubbing your brush around too much. And the way to kind of work out exactly how much to kind of rub your brush around and blend, that process is something that you'll only learn from actually like engaging with the process. But that's what I've found anyway, and I really like blending. I like blending colours together. It's one of my favourite things to do in art. So I know there's a lot of people who'll tell you that you shouldn't blend with oil paints, that you should just try your best to mix more rather than blend. And I respect those people. They probably know what they're talking about. If you wanna, I don't know, be a good oil painter, then yeah, it's probably better to listen to them than to listen to me. My head's getting in the way a lot, isn't it, in this footage? You can see my head just underneath the camera constantly just blocking what I'm doing. Isn't that kind of annoying? Yeah. My head doesn't usually get in the shot that much when I'm doing these time lapses, but it does now. Yeah, well anyway, so you you can listen. You should probably listen to the experts more than you listen to me, but I don't know. I think I think if you want to just be like a bit of a renegade, just kind of going your own way and doing whatever, then yeah, just find your own way of using them, basically. Like I said, your handle teach you more than your brain teaches you. Those little problem solving methods that you come up with to do things. That's the best way to learn with oil paints. That's me like scraping. If you saw me there, like that, I had kind of really darkened up the top of that mattress there, and then I get my palette knife out, and it looks in this footage as if I'm just like putting some white over it with a palette knife, but actually that's not what I was doing. I was actually scraping the paint off. And here I am just painting the edges of the oil painting, and this is the end of the video actually. So God, I've rambled on for about 18 minutes. I was going to talk about some other things as well. And there we go. That's the lot. Usually at this point, at the very end, I would have like a scanned picture of the picture that I was working on, but this oil painting is actually still drying as I'm recording this. So what I'll probably do is I'll probably just get my camera out and I don't know, try and film some kind of interesting angles of the painting, the finished painting, and then edit that together with what I'm saying now. Yeah, but this is the end of the video. I did plan a more interesting video than just a time lapse for this, but I tried to talk to the camera and I just embarrassed myself. But not all of my videos on this channel are just time lapses. A lot of them are more interesting than that. So if you liked this video, then please click the like button, click the subscribe button, all that stuff they always tell you to do. And thank you very much for watching. I hope you've learned something. Or actually, in some ways, I hope you haven't learned something, because I don't want you to repeat any, bad habits that you might get from an amateur like me. But whatever. Anyway, goodbye.